Welcome. Hello. It's time for Blocktalk. We're on Bitcoin block 462357. Yeah, got a little bit of a mempool bump up here. Use some higher fees, guys, and you should be all right. But yeah, keep a close eye. Sponsors for the show, Bittrex. Best altcoin exchange around. You should definitely be using them if you are trading altcoins. Um, and also GPU Source, turnkey solutions for mining. Subscribe to some updates as they will be kind of listing some prices here shortly. So on the show today, we have Clay Space from the Back to Earth project. So we're hoping to learn a little more about what he's planning on doing here. So hi, I'm your host, Alex, and we're here with Clay. How's it going, Clay?
Going good. How are you?
Fantastic. Always cool to hear about more crypto projects. And I know I've seen you on Twitter for a long time. So kind of cool to see that you're building something as well.
Yeah, I'm excited because we're getting a chance to kind of engage that community and in a way that I think that a lot of projects don't engage the community.
Yeah, kind of real fun stuff, it looks like. Do you think you can give a little rundown of what you're hoping to kind of achieve here with Back to Earth? Like, what's the goal?
Yeah, absolutely. I like to start by talking about Hollywood distribution and how distribution models have changed so dramatically in the last 10 years. And kind of what we're seeing is what used to be staples of the industry, which were DVD sales and theatrical sales, are basically just disappeared. Nobody's going to the theaters anymore, and people aren't buying DVDs. And so what you have is you have a lot of production companies struggling to figure out where the revenue models are as shows as production companies like Netflix come in and Amazon. And so a lot of the shift with the internet has come from transmedia content, which is basically taking a story and putting it on multiple mediums. So you don't just have a film, you have your film, you have apps, you have social media, you have graphic novels, you have a multitude of different mediums that you're telling your story through. And in doing so, you don't just tell a story, you create a brand. And so Back to Earth is trying to create a brand and then incorporate a cryptocurrency token with that.
Okay, so like it's really just kind of breaking out of the standard model of what is like the media distribution and stuff. Um, Sounds a lot to me like I don't know if you're familiar with Nine Inch Nails, their
Yeah.
album Year Zero. Yeah, like they did an entire like game or kind of like this post paradox story of this crazy future. And it started off with like like they gave out a T-shirt, and the T-shirt had a website on it, and they found it on the forums. They were finding out more about future shows where they found like USB sticks with like hidden songs on them, I guess, and like more websites and stuff. And eventually, all culminated with this crazy show at the end at like a hidden concert at some abandoned warehouse, and then yeah, where they played the whole album, and eventually the show ended with like a fake raid from the cops. So it was kind of like
Yeah.
a really cool like viral ad marketing thing. So it sounds like you're really doing something in the same vein.
Yeah, yeah. In fact, what that's called is an alternate reality game. And so we're incorporating that into our projects because what we want to do is we want to have a way in which the mediums are able to interact with each other and where this token can kind of be fluid in and out different mediums. And and so absolutely, it's proven to be a very effective marketing campaign. One of the problems with ARGs in the past was it was a little difficult to monetize them, and so you've seen recently there haven't been a lot of new alternate reality games that have been created, kind of for that reason. And so we're hoping that a cryptographic token that allows for micropayments and microtransactions can actually fix that problem.
So what's like the I guess end goal? Is there an end goal of the game, or is it meant to be like this continuous thing of like it's evolving every week or every month?
Yeah, so it would kind of be like a more season arc sort of thing where the content leads up to an event. One of the aspects of our project is that we're only raising a small amount of Bitcoin the first crowdfund round, And that's more to prove our concept so that we can kind of take this to studios and we can say, this is a potential new model that you could create content off of, and try to kind of break into the mainstream through that as well.
That sounds kind of cool. So, like, I guess, how do you have the first kind of season plan or already done? Like, the first story, or like, how far along are you with kind of your prototype?
Yeah, so we have a lot of scripts essentially, and so the next step once we get our funding is to take those scripts and to kind of figure out what we can create from the get-go to kind of show our proof of concepts and get people interacting with the story and using the star credits, and seeing what works and what doesn't. And so the story is kind of a futuristic story that's a mix between Black Mirror and The Walking Dead. I don't know if you've ever seen Black Mirror.
Oh, I've seen them both. Yeah, they're good shows.
Awesome. Yeah, they're two of my favorite shows. Walking Dead's kind of screwed up in recently, but the idea is that there's this future technology that's been created that gives people access to the internet through their minds, and so they're able to project their reality or their virtual reality onto their reality. Mm-hmm. And because this technology is kind of so integral to their brain, it allows the creators of this technology to manipulate them in ways that they wouldn't have expected. And so part of our story takes place in this future where we have the technology, and then part of our story takes place in a future where that technology has been manipulated to the point that it's caused kind of this post-apocalyptic breakdown in society.
So, are you familiar with like Geocoin at all, or some of the games out there that you can actually like hide Bitcoin and stuff out based on geolocation?
Yeah, I've heard of Geocoin, and I do know that there's potential uses in hiding things through geolocation and using that sort of strategy.
Yeah, like I think with the whole hype over Pokemon Go, like I think a lot of people saw that as real validation of like you kind of have these interactive, like real world games.
Yeah. And actually, what I would argue the reason that Pokemon Go failed, because I do think that in a lot of ways, it had its initial launch, a lot of people used it, and then they stopped. And I think the reason was they didn't have a story.
Mm-hmm.
You played it and you collected these monsters, and unfortunately, one reason you couldn't really trade them or battle them in an effective way that was reminiscent of the past games. But the other problem was that you didn't really have anything that you could like grasp onto story-wise. You joined Mystic or Team, the Yellow Team or whatever they were, but there wasn't really any sort of anything to do past that. And so I think that a lot of people got turned off after the initial launch of Pokemon Go for those reasons. And so that's one thing that we're trying to solve.
Oh yeah, like they only really had a third of the actual game they needed because, like you said, they needed to be able to do trading and battling because those are key features in the original game. So what's the kind of timeline here? So you guys are starting your crowd sale on the 26th for SRC tokens. When will we kind of expect the product or them to be actually in use?
Yeah, so within the first 3 months, we're going to have content out, and so you'll be able to interact with your tokens with our content within 3 months, and then the goal would be 3 months. 3 months following that is kind of a second pre-production phase where we're kind of weighing in on what the community's thought of the project so far and what content's working, what content isn't working, and then kind of taking that and figuring out really how much we're going to need to create the full season of our show, and running a second crowdfund, and then also pitching to studios and showing them our proof of concept and trying to get them interested in the project as well.
So, are you guys doing? It looks like it's on the Waves network. You're using a token on Waves.
No, we're using Ethereum.
Ah, okay, standard ERC token.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, like did you do a little shopping around? Because I know like right now, I think a lot of projects are learning you don't need your own blockchain, but yeah, you should still be blockchain based. Now they're kind
Yeah,
of like, oh,
we
seeing
we
the
did
benefits.
we did a lot of shopping around and talked to a lot of different coin developers, and eventually it kind of came down to the looming Bitcoin hard fork. Whether or not that happens or not, it's a little too much to gamble on a Bitcoin token. So we thought that Ethereum was kind of the best option in that case because they have a lot of development.
Yeah, yeah. Like I'm hearing lots more good things about it, and I think it really just kind of peaked recently with the storage project announcing they were going to move because
Yeah.
they were going to solve a bunch of the micropayments issues with Bitcoin. With like they had a couple ideas, but now they're like, let's just focus on doing data storage and move to
Yeah.
Ethereum.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's just kind of the nature of the business right now. But yeah, I think sounds like you're knowledgeable enough, and I've seen you around long enough that you'll always be examining other options. Like you can always switch to another network if you really need to. But Ethereum, I
Yeah.
think, is a pretty good base.
Yeah, one of my problems, or I guess concerns initially, was using Ethereum because I felt like maybe there was a little too much hype, and so I thought, maybe are there better options? And so it did. It took us maybe a good 4 or 5 months before we finally settled on building on Ethereum.
Well, and like you're on what's the EVM, like the Ethereum virtual machine. So like if you guys want to issue like some token for one part of an episode or something, like it's really easy to have all like create new tokens and have them all interact and do voting. Like it's a fluid system. So there's no reason that you wouldn't benefit from being all interconnected.
Yeah, the definitely building assets on top of SRC is one of the components that we'll be playing around with a lot. In fact, our crowdfund, we do have a second asset that we're giving as protection for people who donate to the crowdfund because we're not giving away all of our tokens. So if you donate a certain amount, you'll also receive a golden ticket, and that'll give you free tokens in our next crowdfund.
Cool. So tell me more about the rest of your team. Like it looks like you got a couple different people. I understand you're the founder and creative director. So who's the rest of your key members here?
Yeah, so I've got two advisors who are just absolutely fantastic, Marshall and Michelle. And so they've been really helping push the project in the right direction, making us weigh all of our options and taking our time. There's been certain points where I've been trying to rush it, and we've been pulling back because they're right. And then our producers here in Albuquerque, Shad and Kevin, both have a lot of great experience here in town creating local productions, and they have a lot of really great contacts with the local community. And so when we pull them together, we'll have a really awesome film production team here in town for our film part of our show. And then we were also really fortunate to land No Mimes Media, which they're based out in California, and essentially they are a transmedia production company, and so they work with other companies to create experiences, and so they really have just like a lot of great experience. They've worked with huge companies like Ford, Game of Thrones, and they can pick and choose the projects they want to work on. And so we've been really fortunate that they saw our script and they wanted to work with us.
Yeah, that's one thing I was kind of curious if you had any contact with the original company that did the Nine Inch Nails ones, because apparently they did like some viral marketing for Halo back in the day too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure where the creators of No Mimes stand with what ARG projects they've worked on, but I know that they were very close to a lot of the ARG productions when they were first getting going. Because when we mentioned that we were doing an ARG production, they got really excited.
Yeah, I think there's a lot more to it than just building a website. You got to be able to build apps. You got to have connections in all different sorts of media. So I hope that they're fairly well suited that way. Like they're able to get across all these different mediums and have experience in launching in all those different mediums.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you got a pretty stacked plan here, man. It sounds like you're well on your way to building something pretty cool. So is this the first like crypto project you've been kind of attempting, or?
Yeah, this is essentially the first. We had a project like last year that I ran for maybe about a month before we realized there was no need to have a token involved with it, and so we didn't want to waste the community's time, and then it kind of evolved into this. So yeah, I'm really excited about it, and it's cool to finally become a larger part of the dialogue in the community and kind of move past just trading these tokens.
Well, I think this will be an asset, just like, Steam It or any of these other kind of real popular ones have been, where they bring in more people that wouldn't have discovered Bitcoin to begin with. Like um, having like those on ramps is really important in the altcoin space, because it does bring more people into the Bitcoin space.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're kind of trying to do. Is really the main purpose of the SRC token is to be used in a very similar fashion to Bitcoin. Is we're not trying to do anything super complex with our first kind of proof of concept, and make it so that it is digestible to people who don't know anything about cryptocurrency.
And I see you got a kind of a similar model to, I guess, Gambit really set this forward, was do buybacks to kind of increase the value of the token.
So not necessarily buybacks. What we're doing is whenever the token interacts with our content, we destroy it. So it is removed from the supply, and that's what Gambit does as well in its own way. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
No, it's the best way to kind of not do like dividends or any sort of payout promises, which starts getting into the field of securities and stuff.
yeah.
Like buybacks is a nice, simple. There's deflation; it will go up in price because of the deflation. Like that. That's a pretty simple model to put forward.
Yeah.
So I guess what can I expect like the minimum to be of like for participation, or like you're gonna have some, I guess, to give away to do referrals and stuff, so that'll be kind of good viral marketing. So like, do I have to pay like $5 to experience this whole story, or like can I jump in at the end of the story with just and maybe get some prizes that way, or do I have to like be a part of the entire thing? Like I'm kind of curious, like what's the participation angle? Can I just be watching it from the outside, or do I actually have to have skin in the game to really participate in this?
No, that's a good question. Basically, there's kind of like three different types of audience members. There's the audience member, like you mentioned, that just kind of sits back and watches, doesn't take a whole lot of time out of their day to kind of become a part of the experience. This would be somebody who spends time on maybe one medium. So maybe they watch a couple episodes of our show. And then there's the people who dive in and see some of the content. So they maybe move across multiple, like one or two mediums, and they spend a little bit more time on it. And then there's the people who get in and they experience the entire experience. So they move across all of our platforms and mediums. And so catering to all three of those audience members is a goal of ours. And the majority of audience members really are the people who just kind of watch it and don't really get super involved. And so the goal of the project is to have it so that we can interest all members of these different groups.
Yeah.
The tentpole productions, kind of we're really looking into a mobile app, a film production, a film series, and then our graphic novel. These are all places where we're kind of getting in that initial audience that may or may not interact with some of the deeper story elements. But having that deeper net is what gives it kind of that ability to exist for hopefully longer than to create that brand.
Oh yeah, no, you gotta have some staying power. Like there's got to be something, I guess, kind of I don't know, self-sustaining about the project. Obviously, you guys need to keep developing new stories, but at the same time, like there's revenue being generated from the stories to fund new stories.
Mhm.
So it sounds like it can be a very self-sustaining business. Like you just have to get the first one out there. So you mentioned the mobile app. Like, what sort of challenges have you had trying to get like developers to work with like Ethereum token and everything like that?
Yeah, one of the things, of course, with, as we all know, with the App Store with Apple, is they don't allow tokens, basically. And so one of the things we're playing with for the mobile app is that uh, it would not necessarily connect to the Star Credit token. Is that it would be more of just kind of an on ramp to get people interested in the content, and then let them know that off the app there's other interactions taking place. Also playing with the idea that certain elements of the app would interact with offline elements. So if you uh, find, like, for lack of a better word, cheat codes that would give you information to a website or something that you can only get if you play through the game in its entirety, sort of thing.
So it sounds like it's just like another kind of hook that you guys are kind of reeling people in
Exactly.
to get more interest. So is there going to be kind of like one central point? Like when I mentioned the Nine Inch Nails one, I think the forum was like really the key place where everyone was kind of organizing and dissecting, the audio, the files and stuff they were finding and the websites they were looking at. So like, is there kind of going to be like a central medium that people can organize on?
Yeah, absolutely. We would have a forum. Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So that's kind of coming to the end of my questions here. Just in the YouTube chat, someone wanted to know the name of the token and I guess the ticker. You could,
Star Credits.
yeah.
SRC.
Okay. And let me get my Coinigy chart up here because we do have a little tradition on the show. I'm not too sure if you're familiar. We like to guess the price of Bitcoin in 1 week's time.
Oh, okay.
As you know, we all seem to be traders in this crazy world.
Yeah, let me get up a chart.
And yeah, I think you have a fair bit of a trading background too, so it'd be kind of interesting to get your thoughts on what Bitcoin is doing today. So here's the chart right now, and yeah, we're hitting a really weird top here right now. I'm not too sure. Bitcoin's kind of in a decision moment right now. I don't know what to make of it.
Yeah, I've been kind of thinking the same thing myself, and the interesting thing is that altcoins are still super bullish, and they haven't really retraced like I would expect them to retrace in the case of Bitcoin really going mega bull. But at the same time, if Bitcoin kind of breaks up from the region it's at right now, there's really just the all-time high to contend with, and then it's on to new highs. So it's a really weird spot, and so I'd say it's either next week it's either broken all-time highs or it's back down to maybe low 1100s.
So you gotta flip a coin to decide which one that is.
Yeah, sure. Let me flip a coin. Let's see if I can find one.
No, but I think you're definitely right. Like the altcoin bull market is just absolutely insane right now. There's no money leaving the market, and I'm kind of waiting for, like, there's got to be some news story that starts pulling away, whether it is Bitcoin breaking higher or I don't know, something craps out again because God knows, got some exchange going under. Maybe, I don't know. But
there's been some drama with withdrawals on certain exchanges. I know Bitfinex is even like cutting back on certain withdrawals or something, for at least for Asian customers, because of the whole Bank of China stuff.
So are you planning on working with Bittrex over this then, or?
It's always a goal to get on exchanges. And I've had interactions with the Bittrex team in the past, so hopefully getting added to that exchange will not be difficult because we're not a security and because we're not a gambling token or anything like that.
Yeah, like they're pretty good at like looking at having their legal team comb through and like, okay, change this wording slightly or anything like that. But overall, like I think the idea is there. Like I mean, it's not strip clubs, but I'm sure Bill will still be interested in it. he's really following up on some really interesting Ethereum projects. So I'm sure this one will kind of fit in perfectly, and he'll probably enjoy watching the show. So yeah, I guess I'm gonna say the price is probably gonna be a lot lower. I'm gonna say 1080 for next week.
All right. Yeah, I'll say.
What do you?
I'm gonna say I like 1120.
1120. All right. Looks okay. Yeah, so we'll see where we are with this in the next week. Kind of like our own pseudo prediction market here, and it's a nice little way to check back up. And I understand, like, well, I've seen you on Twitter a bunch before from your trading calls and like your interest in the altcoin space. So I know you're really well versed, and I think that's important when you're running like a sort of blockchain technology company in some regard, whether it is more media focused or more technology focused. I think you need to have those different hats.
Yeah, I think one of the things I've noticed recently with the ICOs and crowd funds in the space is they are taking advantage of this bullish market to the point where it's a little ridiculous and kind of it doesn't help the community. And so yeah, having these open-ended crowd funds where they just kind of raise as much as they can, they're hitting the market overinflated, and it doesn't help the people who are participating in their crowd funds. And ultimately, that's what's going to destroy the crowdfund bubble. And so I'm hoping that we can do something that's a little bit more fair and a little bit more even for the people who participate.
Yeah, no, I like that. It's a good goal. And yeah, there is this old saying of sell in May and walk away. People start getting their tax returns right now, putting their money into the market, and that's when a lot of guys I think are pulling out. But it's really hard to see reasoning why this is going to slow down. I'm looking for it every day though.
Yeah, it's my personal feeling is that Bitcoin is going to go on a run. Altcoins are going to go on a run, and we're going to see the most bullish year of crypto ever. And yeah, probably could end in December, but I think we're going to have some really crazy profits coming up.
Yeah, so .com boom all over again.
Yeah, essentially, yeah. As more money comes in, yeah, you see kind of this new paradigm. I mean, it's insane that Ethereum's market cap is $4 billion.
Yeah,
nobody saw that coming a year ago even.
Yeah, their Bitcoin's market capitalization, like we'll see where it kind of starts bouncing back. I thought it kind of bottomed out at I think it's like 70-30 or 35-65 right now for how much Bitcoin is compared to a lot of the major altcoins. But yeah, we're pushing new boundaries. It's not a zero-sum game. There's just money flowing in every day, so it looks good. Yeah. And yeah, I'm really glad we had this chat today. We'll cap this off on a nice half-hour show. Keep it consumable for most people. And any final words to leave us with?
No, not really. The crowdfund is kind of a more mysterious crowdfund, so you will need a referral link in order to get it. And so to get those referral links, you'll need to be a part of our Back to Earth community Telegram or a part of our newsletter.
Oh, I better get Blocktalk on that so I can get all over those referrals.
That's right.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Clay, and everyone at home. Thank you so much for tuning in. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe. Suggest any future guests on the show. I'm very approachable on Twitter at @block_talk, and we'll see you in the next 1,000 blocks.
Have a good one.